So thank you, everyone. Hello, good afternoon, good morning. My name is Matt Hardy. I'm the Program Director for Planning and Performance Management here at AASHTO. I want to welcome you to our webinar series, our TAM sort of mini webinar series. We're excited to be back with a second installment in this webinar, sort of new webinar mini series focusing on TAM tools. For our topic today, we'll be looking at asset management systems. And we have two more mini-series webinars on the calendar. Our next one will be next Thursday, May 5th at 2 p.m. Eastern. We'll be celebrating Cinco de Mayo at the same time, so please come prepared for that celebration. The topic is other TAM tools, that is TAM tools other than management systems. I just want to point out that we're shifting from our regular Wednesday schedule because Wednesday is the AASHTO TRB Performance Management Research Symposium that is also taking place. I'll post a link to that if you want to participate in our research symposium. I'll post a link in the chat that you can register for that. And if you want to register for that meeting or the TAM webinars or just catch up on any of the past webinars, you can visit the AASHTO TAM portal. And that's if we all remember from last week, tam-portal.com. Click on events in the main menu. You can register there for all the upcoming TAM tools mini-series meetings and for future TAM webinars as they are announced. And you'll also find that we have archived all of the previous webinars, including last week's webinar, on the AASHTO portals and related tools. Links to videos and slides from today's meeting will also be posted on that site as soon as we have them ready. And of course, you'll also find many of the tools that we'll be looking at during today's webinar right there on the TAM portal. Again, it's tam-portal.com. And finally, if you have any questions at all during today's webinar, please use the webinar's chat feature during the presentations. We'll document those questions and kind of get them asked at the end. And we'll have time for some open discussion towards the end of the session as well. And we're looking forward to your questions. But until then, please be sure to keep your line muted and your camera off. We do want to hear from you during the Q&A, but not before. With that, I want to turn over to my good friend, Tasha Clemens from FHWA, who's going to give an overview, a welcome from FHWA. And they've been a great partner. I think the AASHTO FHWA partnership is strong. And I look forward to continuing to work with her in the months and years to come. So Tasha, all yours.
Thank you, Matt. It's so great to be here with you guys today. FHWA is proud to sponsor this special TAM webinar mini-series and of the TAM webinar series along with AASHTO. And I'm glad to have a chance to welcome all of you joining us here today. In our first mini-series installment last week, we had a fantastic tour of AASHTO's TAM and TPM portals and some of the related online resources. In this second installment of the mini-series, we're going to look at some of the management systems in use at transportation agencies today. We'll hear from DOT speakers who will share with us some of the current capabilities and future plans for their pavement and bridge management systems and more. And since I know management systems are so fundamental to good asset management practices, I'm looking forward to hearing from many of you on the line who are using these and other similar tools in your agencies today. This is a chance to compare notes and to learn together. As Matt mentioned, we've changed our webinar platform to allow for more interaction. And when we sat down to plan this mini-series, our goal was for all of us joining these webinars to be able to learn from one another through dialogue and discussions. So I'm looking forward to hearing from you during the Q&As as well as the polls. I think you're going to enjoy today's session, and I hope we'll all learn a lot this afternoon. Finally, as Matt mentioned, the topic of next week's mini-series installment is other TAM tools. And I hope everyone will be able to join us next week. So right now, I'll turn it over to Hyana to cover our agenda as well as objectives today. Hyana.
Thanks, Tasha. So I'll quickly cover our objectives and agenda today and get us right into our main event. The purpose of this installment of TAM Tools webinar mini-series is 3 parts. First off, it's to raise awareness of the role of management systems in supporting strong asset management practices. Secondly, it's to understand some of the management systems currently in use at transportation agencies. And finally, it's to hear from you. We're looking forward to some great questions and sharing of ideas and practices and suggestions at the end of our webinar today. Today, we will start with a few Mentimeter polls to get you all warmed up. Then I'll provide a quick overview of management systems and transportation agencies as a context for today's presentations. And that'll take us right up to our presentation, spotlighting management systems at 4 DOTs. We'll hear from Kendall Draney from Utah DOT, Philip Montoya from New Mexico DOT, Justin Bruner from the Pennsylvania DOT, and finally, Britton Stocks and Toby Matthey from the Colorado DOT. Then we'll have a Q&A session followed by a couple of closing polls. Please do submit your comments or questions ahead of time using the chat feature in the webinar control panel. You can do so at any time during today's presentation. And as I think most of you know, we'll make the slides and video available for today's webinar at tamportal.com. So let's get going with a few short polls. Okay, we're gonna do that first. Okay, let me just do the overview first, and then we'll go to the polls. So there are many ways to answer the question, what is an asset management system? Here's a way of looking at it. We'll start, let's go from the bottom of this slide going up. So, first and foremost, a foundational element of a management system is the data. And you can see here that, that the data layer has asset inventory, condition, and other information depending on the system you have. It might have, most will have unit costs for work types, inflation factors, but may have usage and other things of importance to the agency. Then we move on to what the management system actually does as far as functions, such as generating reports, conducting analyses, optimizing asset deterioration, supporting process management, and recommending treatments. And then finally, let's look at how agencies use asset management systems to support what they do. And so, for instance, meeting regulatory reporting requirements, forecasting future asset performance, building scenarios to plan better, conducting multi-objective decision analysis, and prioritization of what best to do in any context. We'll hear, so this is just one way of looking at it, but these are the elements. And I would say that what we're gonna hear today are various emphasis of what parts of these systems each agency is focused on, what they've built, and how they're using it. So, so that would be great. So let's now go to the polls. All right, so what we're gonna do is to go through a series of polls to just get a lay of the land, and for us to all kind of know who's here and how you're using management systems today. So the first poll is just tell us which agency you're from, or what organization you're from. So if you could just type that in to the Menti poll. So if you go to, there's I think a link to it in the chat, but also you can go to menti.com and enter the code 75264212, and then you'll get to the polls. You see that at the top of the screen there. So people are writing what agencies they're from, and we're seeing this kind of from various, I guess, word cloud view of your answers. So see Federal Highways, New Jersey DOT, Iowa, Hawaii, Illinois. And then we see consultant, Ashtoware, Basement Studies Institute. Don't know what that is. All right. Let's wrap up that question. So we have a good mix of people, a lot of DOTs. All right, so then the next question is, which management systems does your agency use? And here you just click the management systems that you do have and are using at your agencies. And so, oh, this is interesting. So far 5 have integrated asset management systems, 29 with pavement management system, 26 with bridge, 10 with maintenance management, and 4 with other management systems. All right. And we're seeing a bit more on the other management systems. It'd be interesting to see what those are. And what some. Perry, can you show the view of what the other management systems are? Facilities management and transit, buildings. All right. So the next question is, how much are each of you satisfied with your current system or systems for asset management? So, so you can see, very satisfied is at the far right, and then not satisfied is at the left. We're kind of more satisfied, slowly. Looks like we'll settle in the 3.4-ish arena. We'll wait a few minutes for people to complete that question. What do you all think? Is that kind of what you would have expected? Kind of, I would put that in the kind of B, maybe C plus B arena in terms of satisfaction with the current management systems that you have. 3.3. So I guess people are probably seeking ways to improve on their management systems. So the next question is asking if you're in the midst of acquiring a new management system or considering it in the future. So 16 people for now are content with the systems and they're not seeking a new management system. 9 are currently acquiring one, and 10 are planning for the future. So it looks like kind of half-half in terms of content with the current systems and either acquiring a new one or planning to acquire a new one. All right. So the last question is, what do you want to know most about other agencies' management systems? So you can see here, life cycle planning, kind of the challenges they've had, the best practices, how they do performance models, How does it impact your project development and prioritization? A lot. Worked with 52 agencies on their asset management systems. Okay. How are they integrating between systems and using data? How they're collecting data, pros and cons, usability. Is there a standalone system that we can use for those assessments that are not part of our current or potential system? So kind of an add-on ability, configurability, cloud or hosted, business processes, the system support. Do you use the system only in the central office or is it deployed to districts? Lots of questions. These will, I think we'll definitely be capturing these, but for some of our presenters today, you may want to kind of look at this and think about providing answers to some of these inquiries that we're seeing here. All right. So that wraps up our polls for today. And we'll, as we mentioned, this will be included in the package of information on the TAM portal from this webinar. So let's get started with our first presentation from Kendall Draney. Kendall is Utah DOT State Maintenance Asset Manager, and he has a great presentation to get us started today. Take it away, Kendall.
All right, thank you very much. So today we wanted to talk to a little about UDOT's transition to our new maintenance management system called ATM. We are transitioning away from using an agile asset product to now going to be using ATM. And through this process, we've realized quite a bit of things. Some of the most important things is how are we integrating with our other systems and how are we moving this data back and forth as the department? And that's kind of the keystone of what we're working on. And so what I wanted to first kind of talk about is we understood that we needed to make sure that we had that asset spatial database that everything was interacting with, not only from our new maintenance management system, but for our bridge management system, our pavement management system, and a plethora of other items inside the department. So setting up that asset spatial database was one of the most important things that we did, was looking at what assets do we want in there, what were those attributes that we would like to have, and then how could we make sure that it had the most current information available so that we could close this cycle of design, construction to maintenance, how those assets lived all the way through that. And so that's what we've been working through. And ATM's just a part of the cog in this data flow. And so ATM is the maintenance management system that we've chosen. These are the assets. Oops, sorry, went the wrong way. These are the assets that we've put into our maintenance management system. You can see that we have a plethora of items that we'll be tracking with condition data about these and being able to say what work orders are being done against them. This system allows for you to put in as many assets as you'd like and adjust for sub assets and other items along that way. These are just what we've started with. This isn't the end. We'd like to add more in the future as we go along. With that, we've chosen ATM because it was a mobile data collection. It didn't require us to have desktop, something that you go back to the office and fill out paperwork on and take back and forth. We wanted to be able to make sure that the people that were out doing the work had a mobile capability so that they could enter in the information as they were doing it and not having to track a bunch of paper afterwards and spend the time for data entry. And so that's what this ATM allows us to be able to do, is make sure that we have that mobile functionality that also works offline and is easy to use. Our system here kind of gives you an overview of what it looks like on the mobile for work orders and on the desktop version for work orders. On those work orders, the idea that we have as a department, as a user goes out and does work on our assets, we want them to immediately give an update on the rating of that asset, be able to give information that's going to feed the system to be able to say, how are we doing as a department? Where are we lacking? And then what does it cost to fix things? And so that's what this system is going to help us do by being able to collect all this extra data that we're going to be having them enter in as they go out and do work. It's not just a snapshot in time of one time we ran it and here's what our assets looked like. But as they go out and do things, they're rating them. They're being able to attach their photos, their videos, they're being able to attach inspection logs, and all of that's being able to go into databases to be queried on. And so that's the driver for Atom and what it's able to do for us. We're changing to more of that asset based and not just activity based as a maintenance force. So with all that data, our goal is, like I said, to move away from being historically budgeted. Most of the DOTs on ourselves included have just been using historical data of saying, we've always given this region, this maintenance shed, this amount of dollars for working on guardrail. We're just going to continue to do that in the future. Now we'll be able to start going into the data that comes back from the condition and be able to say how many of their signs, how many of their guardrails are in poor condition. What is the cost to bring those up? What is that effect going to be? That's what we're going to be moving to over the next couple of years. It's going to take time for us to start building in the data to be able to then report this out, but it has the capability as a system. Along with that goes a level of service. We've gone through and reworked our level of service manual of what assets we're going to be collecting that condition data on, what it means, where it is on its life cycle curve, and what our target grades are. And using those target grades is how we can then move to the trade-off analysis, which is the next part of being able to say, if I have this asset in this area and my goal and my target's an A, this is what the cost will be to bring that up to that target level. And if I don't do it, this is what the future will look like for that asset, and then be able to compare that to other assets targets and putting the money towards those assets and say, where's the best bang for a buck to be able to meet as many targets as possible as a department. So that's all areas we're working towards. We haven't been able to do this yet as we're just rolling out the system. We're in the process of training everyone in the department, and as July 1st, we'll go live with this system that we'll be using day in and day out here at the department. With that trade-off analysis, we'll also have the deterioration curves of our assets that we were collecting that I showed at the beginning. We'll be able to see when it was put in, when it was installed, and how it degrades over time, and how the different treatments that we're doing will be able to hopefully maintain those assets in better conditions, and how that affects overall for the cross asset allocation. So these are some of the things that the system has as capabilities. You can see the graphs, all the different reporting that it has. We're just scratching the surface in this area as we're trying to become more of an asset-based organization and understanding how these non-primary assets as pavement and structures affect our roadway and what those costs are to us as a department to be able to maintain those in a state of good repair. So that's the new system that we're going out with. This is what we're trying to accomplish. It's going to be a good system, though we're learning a lot through it. I'm excited for any questions that come up. That's usually when I can give you the best feedback about the system. But if you have any other information later on, you can contact me at kdrain@utah.gov, or Sean Lambert is our Director of Maintenance and Facilities as well for any questions or anything that you have.
Thank you, Kendall. That was great. And again, if you have any questions, you can put them into the chat. But since we're in Zoom, you can also, when we get to the after the presentation, you can raise your hand and ask the question by voice as well. All right, next we'll hear from Philip Montoya, the Asset Management Bureau Chief at New Mexico DOT. Philip. Philip, we're not able to hear you, so I don't know if you need to unmute yourself.
Looks like you still might be muted. Take a look at that.
There we go.
Okay.
Okay, I want to work on sharing my screen now. Hello, everybody. I'm Phil Montoya from the Mexico Department of Transportation. I'm the Asset Management Bureau Chief. And what the system that we use currently is the Agile Asset System. And we use it for the pavement management and the maintenance management modules. We use it for all the federal, well, a lot of the federal reporting. We also use it for a condition analysis report in order to actually come up with a data-driven decision for project selection and project prioritization. And the condition analysis report is based off of the enterprise GIS system, which actually compiles data from 7 disparate systems into one data mart. Then it is actually put out onto a system itself, which reflects all of the traffic data, the pavement information, the data, the bridge data, and it ties it all to the linear referencing system. The pavement management system also gives us a pavement recommendations based off of the decision trees that we've actually worked out throughout the agency in order to try and ensure our pavements stay good for the longest, optimize the pavements for the longest time. And we also use it for optimization and scenarios based off of the funding that we're receiving from federal highways, our legislative appropriations, etc. We actually implemented the system in 2015, and the things that went well were all of this. We had the districts as a stakeholder, so we had a lot of buy-in from the agency statewide. We didn't just try and silo the information to the general office. We also did a lot of UAT, a lot of user acceptance testing, and that was statewide as well. And one of the best things that we went through was a trainer method in order to make sure that everybody got trained. We stood up the system in 15 months, and we've actually done a couple more configurations to the system as we've gone on. The things that could have been done better is the training documentation. A lot of the documentation that we had was just based off of what we knew. And I think if we would have gotten more feedback from the districts and the vendor, we could have actually collaborated a little bit better. Some of the other things that could have gone better is there again, working with the statewide, getting all the districts' information in order to compile the complex reports required for maintenance and pavement activities. How effective is it at supporting NMDOT's TAM objectives? It stores and reports historical and current condition data, which has actually helped us with upcoming TAM, which is due here for us June timeframe. Allows multiple configurations that reflect NMDOT's business processes, reverting back to the decision trees and treatments. Predicts future condition of the network for multiple funding scenarios. Supplies pavement treatment recommendations, develops the best work plans given financial and technical constraints. We've actually done a lot of this now, like I said, with a TAMP, and we found a couple things that we need to, I guess, shore up on. And the pavement management system has actually helped us identify any areas that we can improve. What do you find most valuable about NMDOT's Agile Assets implementation? It's assisted NMDOT with data reporting and consistency for pavements and bridges. It's identified gaps in data analysis, as I stated earlier, helped with constraints and decision trees, created consistency for reporting, And we are part of the SaaS subscription with Agile Assets, which has helped us ensure the tickets have gotten resolved faster. And if there's any hot fixes that needed to take place, that we could get those turned around in a timely manner. We also, just last year, decided to go with a resident consultant, which has actually helped us increase the efficiency and the use of the application. And our resident consultant has assisted us quite a bit in addressing any of the issues that we've had, any of the tickets that we've hadn't been able to close. And he's also assisted us with identifying how we can better our system in order to get the best return on investment. So the future is enhancements is we want to continue working to ensure the best return on investment as stated. Planning and maintenance activities via the Agile Asset System, bringing the payment management system to the next level, and refining our decision trees and ensuring that all of the optimization and the scenarios work properly. LRS integration with roads and highways, which we currently have a project working on now, and that is going to be going live next month. We also want to add additional assets to the Agile Asset System. Right now in the maintenance management system, we have 62 different activities that we could tie for maintenance activities. The pavement management system is just that, addressing all of the pavements and decision trees and all of the details. And with that being that it's 5 minutes, I'm open to any questions. Here's my contact information and look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
All right, that was great. Thanks, Philip. So again, either hold on to your questions for a voice question or put them into the chat and we'll take them in the order that people place them. Next up, we have Justin Bruner. Justin is the Bridge Asset Management Division Section Chief at Pennsylvania DOT. He'll be presenting on Penndot's bridge care system, as well as some new efforts underway at Penndot. Justin could not be here today, so we have his presentation pre-recorded.
Hello, I'm Justin Bruner, Penndot's Bridge Asset Management Section Chief and Asset Management Engineer. And today we're going to talk a little bit about asset management systems here at Penndot. Now, it's hard to talk about current asset management systems here at Penndot without discussing the DOT's history of asset management systems. Penndot has employed asset management principles in supporting systems many years prior to the implementation of MAP 21, which is why we were able to produce our first TAMP draft in 2013. But asset management principles and systems go back further than that, as highlighted by what we refer to as the red report on the right, which is the Transportation Asset Management Case Study performed in 2004 by FHWA. This paper calls out the current state of practices of asset management at Penndot circa 2003, which summarized the state of asset management at the DOT at the time and laid out a path for future asset management work and systems. And if we dive into this report, we find there's a summary of asset management systems listed, which highlight over 20 previous years of homegrown asset management systems and decision support tools here at the DOT. And some systems are still in service today and without significant upgrade. Penndot has had over 40 years of experience in asset management decision-making and creating custom software solutions to support those decisions. History has shown that by developing the software in-house, Penndot has ensured that its original and future business needs were met, and this is a viable path for successful asset management. Okay, so now let's talk about current asset management software here at Penndot, as we followed our traditional route of creating and incrementally improving our own products. So Penndot originally started with BAMS Lite, our first attempt at bridge asset management. It utilized VBA and Excel and worked off proxy rules that were taken from general business practices within Penndot. The most important outcomes for this was that a solid understanding of our data and the varying requirements for all our end users were captured. So this is the basic diagram of BAMS Lite from early on and would eventually set the stage for bridge care. As you can see here, we had developed the concept of a defined output per structure per year and understood the need to be able to account for committed projects. During development, we also learned that what worked and what didn't. It turns out that Excel is limited to just shy of 2 gigs of internal memory. So no matter how much RAM you have, it can only use 2 gigs, which is unfortunate. Additionally, creating deterioration modeling on the fly was difficult in Excel. And we finally came to the conclusion that we needed a true MODA engine operating in an object-oriented language so that we could select treatments that were actually lowest lifecycle cost and not just based off a tiered list. We also realized some shortcomings of our management strategies, such as the need for true enterprise-level risk score, so that we could differentiate condition and risk. Deterioration was also one of the things that we realized we had tremendous importance in asset management systems, and we needed to do it better. Our original straight line deterioration in BAM's light had proven to be inadequate, and we weren't sure what to do because it seemed that there really wasn't data to support full deterioration modeling, because we only have, say, 15 to 20 years of data on something that can last for over 100 years. So after hiring several data scientists, PhDs, to do data analysis for us, we combined the results and best recommendations into what we now refer to as the family delta principle. So basically, the family delta is utilizing known changes in condition per bridge over a set performance period. While this is a bit clunky mathematically, it seems to produce the best results overall based on the current data and data quality. If you look at the chart, you can see what instances we include and what we don't include, and the performance period in which we use them. Additionally, I know this chart ends in 2015, but we always run it up to the current year. So looking at the upper right, you can see that one of our biggest factors in deterioration is location, specifically by district. It turns out that location, material of construction, traffic, maintenance practices, and all localized things impact deterioration, so we need deterioration models per district and per family. The larger bar chart below is actually data from our Bridge Family 1 substructure 5 condition from a few years ago. These bars represent the instances of duration they have in the condition state. And what's interesting is that there is still a fair amount of scatter in the data, as indicated by the high rate of instances in the early years, despite our best efforts to remove it. This is the data we have to work with. So we started using the percentile. So you can see the 50th, 65th, and 90th percentile shown in color. What we found is that the 65th percentile seems to most accurately reflect deterioration here at Penndot. So as you can see in these two charts, the family delta deterioration modeling method used by Penndot is reasonably accurate, and probably most importantly, no longer the largest factor in projection error in our models, which is very important to us. So in summary, we have developed clever Microsoft Access-based utility that can generate a 10-year rolling average of deterioration modeling per district per family. The most important thing to note is that we have moved on creating custom models for the top 500 bridges by deck area, as they have significant impact to the overall totals. So they warrant an individual analysis, and we do that every year. Now, one of the other issues BAM's Light highlighted was our treatments. We really needed to emulate the current business practice through our lowest life cycle cost lens. So we developed the treatment and consequence document that details all the general treatments and associated changes in condition for each structure. This is 75 pages of flowcharts and summary charts that comprehensively detail the eligibility and impact of each treatment. This represents several years of investigation by Penndot and its consultants, and we're fairly confident in its accuracy. The takeaway from all of this is that there are 13 predefined families now currently in our system that have been carefully vetted so that in a 25-year model run for the entire state, only 0.08 of the structures fall outside of eligibility requirements. So I'd call that a success. Further, these treatments are designed to adhere to the lowest life cycle cost principles, so the outputs from these systems are in line with FHWA asset management requirements. We've also taken the additional step of creating wish treatments, which are treatments that can be utilized when trying to improve the condition of a system above an LLCC basis. So what do I mean by that? If you ever run a COTS system and gave it a crazy large budget and the output is conditions that only increase to a certain degree and then stop and the system just doesn't consume the rest of the money, that's because there isn't a second logic loop in there to account for the desired outcome, which is to spend the money on an LLCC basis to improve the condition of the network. We've done this and called them wish treatments because we wish we had that kind of money. So BAM's Light showed us what we needed to do to create an asset management system that we could actually use and trust. So we took all that knowledge and created BridgeCare. So this is a screenshot of what BridgeCare has evolved into today. It's grown from that very basic Excel-based product to a full-on multi-objective decision analysis tool that's incredibly powerful and is completely customizable. Penndot's Bridge Asset Management System, or BAMS, is branded BridgeCare, so not to be too confused. It's been built with all of the knowledge and lessons learned from the PAMS implementation, BAM's Light, deterioration modeling, treatment and consequence documents, the new risk score, multiple versions of the TAM, and all the FHWA asset management requirements. BridgeCare was built on an open source platform, which allows for end users to have complete control over literally every aspect of the program, from how the user interface looks to how the core MODA engine calculates value. It uses deterministic deterioration so that an individual treatment can be recommended per asset per year, and the rules that Penndot have developed are fully lowest lifecycle cost compliant. Additionally, this software can utilize compound logic routines, which allows for realistic predictions of network performance regardless of budget. This is a screenshot of the analysis page of the system, and as you can see, we've created variables for all the important asset management functions so that the asset management practitioner can utilize this to create a forecast based on current planned work and available budget, or increase budget, or determine how much budget is required to go to a certain condition level, say % poor or good, or change optimization strategies to see what impact it makes to the overall network. The core product of BridgeCare is an output that is comprehensive in every aspect. Shown here is just the summary table, but it gives the recommended treatment per asset per year in the summary, and then breaks down that output per year, funding bucket, treatment type, whatever. The outputs are very thorough and in MS Excel, and some files can reach 50 megabytes in size. The outputs also show graphically what is happening to the network with multiple charts to reflect different business needs. So let's discuss custom versus COTS installation. At Penndot, we feel it's roughly the same time frame to do a custom as it is to do a COTS, and we've done this at Penndot a number of times in a number of different fields over the years. We also feel that in the long run, the costs are similar. The initial savings of a standard COTS is usually consumed in customization either earlier on or later when you find out it doesn't quite meet your business needs. So we feel it's better just start off with a custom solution that does exactly what you want from the get-go. There's definitely more work associated with a custom installation, but in the end, we feel that that particular aspect is a good thing in that the DOT can take ownership of all aspects of the program because they know the core data and what it's telling them and how to use it. So the final product will likely be better than if it was subbed out during a COTS install. Custom installation also allows for near absolute control of what you're doing, and your control is basically limited to your funding. If you want crazy nested rules that reflect your current business practice, you can have it as long as you can afford to code it. But in general, the basic benefits are that during construction, the software is designed with the DOT in mind and not how a third-party software engineer thinks the DOT should work. Specifically, you can really get into the details with the funding and the decision-making process. And because of this, you can actually trust the outputs and make them auditable. Penndot began this program from the onset with a solid understanding of asset management, so everything we've produced is open source. So it's free to copy and use, and all the core program is asset agnostic, so you can use it to manage bridges, sign structures, walls, lights, or roads. Probably the biggest takeaway from what we've created is that this is based on open source language, so anyone can copy and use it free of charge. There are no fees associated with any of it. The software also aligns well with standard DOT practices, and it utilizes deterministic deterioration, unlike some of the other free asset management software out there. Also, it works with committed project integration, and since this is open source and anyone can download it, they can also customize it in any way they desire. So we can't talk about asset management and just limit it to bridges and pavements. Bridges and pavements are just a portion of the overall planning process, which is still a very human process. And we recognize this. There's still tons of room for assistance in this process. Our project creation assistance is called Project Builder. BAMs and PAMs produce recommended treatments, but money is not spent on treatments. It's spent through projects. The ability to combine these recommended treatments into projects is beneficial because it gives you incredibly consistent and accurate forecasts for future condition and need. Penndot Project Builder is being created to consume those outputs from a variety of systems and to create draft projects for planners to analyze and shape into final projects that can be utilized on an LLC basis for recommendations from their independent asset management systems. Project Builder uses the same open source concept as BAMs, which makes it available to anyone who wants to use it. Project Builder emulates the way the planners work now in that it takes recommended treatments from each system, compares them for compatibility and window of time opportunity, and creates draft projects. These draft projects can then be reviewed and refined by the planning partners. So this is the overall vision of asset management software here at Penndot. We have a functioning BAMs and PAMs. We're working to create the management system for other assets and actively creating a summary system to consume information from all those systems to create draft projects to be utilized by the planners. We expect to have our Project Builder software as a desktop build by the end of this year and hope to roll it out as an enterprise level in 2023 while simultaneously supporting some other ancillary asset management systems.
All right. We're lucky that Justin was able to pre-record that for us. Next, we'll hear from Colorado DOT with a presentation from Britton Stocks and Toby Manthe. Britton is a, Britton is a modeling analyst working on the asset management system, and Toby is the management lead. They have a great presentation prepared for us today. I'll hand it over to Britton and Toby.
Thank you. I'm Britt, and I'll be leading the presentation today. I'm going to leave my camera off because my computer is flipping my picture upside down for some reason. So to not distract people, I'm just going to leave it off. So I'm here to talk today to talk about how we use our asset investment management system, or AIMS, in our budget setting at CDOT for asset management. A little background on our program. We started in 2012. We manage 12 asset classes and we model 11 of them. Every one of these on the right, besides maintenance, We also maintain an executive oversight and working committee to help facilitate our program. We're a performance-driven program, and we use kind of a main performance metric for each of our assets, which you can see here. And recently, we actually did an update on our budget setting process. Previously, we had a large budget setting workshop where asset managers presented on their needs and kind of background information on their business, on their programs to our executive committee. And through a Delphi process, budgets were set for 4 years in advance. So we're always working 4 years in advance. And after some feedback, we kind of went back and changed the process a little bit. Instead of having one large presentation, we're sharing a ton of data and background information. We kind of split that up into a annual state of the assets meeting that covers all 12 of our programs and is more educational and is geared for the entire department. But that is also to help kind of set the stage for our budget setting meeting with our oversight committee, who then receives additional information through budget requests and our model forecasts and our scenarios that our program devises. These scenarios are then presented along with the other information, and the executives can choose to modify a scenario or just pick one, and through kind of a committee discussion, we come to a final budget distribution. So this is kind of what our budgets usually look like. A lot of money is tied up actually in our maintenance program and our bridge enterprise, which is stuff we don't actually set budgets for, but everything on kind of the right, service treatment, staff bridge, and these 9 other assets is part of that budget setting trade-off discussion. AIMS is a key part of that budget setting process, but we also use it for a lot of other stuff. We use it to analyze all of our less than assets. It kind of sets the basis for our 4-year program of treatments that we create. Our pavement program is required to that 80% of projects match what our model is spitting out. And yeah, of course, it's used to in that trade-off discussion. And and our model is typically a cost-benefit analysis. It's based on the different asset class. We use different weightings and different treatments and a couple of other things to kind of help specify, but at its core, they're all the same cost-benefit analysis. So this is kind of this graph represents a segment of pavement, and it will look at over the course of 20 years what treatments would be efficient to be done upon that segment, and then it will aggregate all of those treatments across the 20 years and pop out a graph that looks like this. This is a forecast we did for buildings this year for budget setting. So as you can see, it shows our 20-year forecast. We can put in different levels of budgets, and we typically do kind of a wide range, and we're always hoping to at least have a budget that we put in that could put us over our target. Our program does not, if we put in a target, our program doesn't figure out how much money you need to achieve it. It looks at what money we have and forecasts out from there. And then using this information, we kind of combine it with more of a narrative information from our budget requests that we get from our asset managers. And that is then used to kind of help facilitate how the executives see the need for that program. And sometimes they might not agree. Sometimes they're really doing kind of at this point, the MODA work. They're thinking about all this other stuff than just condition, which is what our forecasts are based upon. And they're kind of weighing the trade-offs and then picking kind of what budgets they think are then best for the next, 4 years in advance. kind of help with that, we also create 5 budget scenarios, which are based a lot upon those forecasts. And we generally do some extreme. We do kind of set the boundaries of what the budget setting will look like. And for 2 and 3, we're looking at if we take a lot of money and fund it to from our smaller assets, which are walls, culverts, tunnels, and gives it to our kind of bread and butter, pavement and bridges. What will that look like in condition? And if we look at what if we take a lot of money from pavement and bridges, what will that look like for the smaller assets? But we usually also come up with a couple of recommendations that are a little bit more tailored. Number 4, we're looking at, we don't want to exceed our 5% NPM for minimum. So let's put some more money there, or let's look at a couple of asset classes we think with a marginal increase in money, will they see greater than expected results? And so we create those, and the executives can modify from there or just select one. The aims is definitely still in a work in progress. With all 12 different models, we're always constantly trying to update them and make slight improvements upon them. And we work with our consultants to kind of pick a few asset classes each year to really dive in and focus on how to improve that. And we went through a big bridge deterioration modeling effort recently. We're working on, at some point, putting in multi-objective decision analysis into our program. We're working on what will that look like, and it certainly will take some more time. Another big challenge of ours, though, is maintaining buy-in to continue all that work. Our asset managers are very busy on other stuff, but we need their expert opinions to continue to refine and update our models. So making sure it's something that's beneficial to their program is something that our program, the TAM program, is constantly working on. And part of that is to just keep on training. It's a bit of a Byzantine model, so it requires a lot of use to be able to use it effectively. And so we need to have a strong training program to keep that buy-in. And kind of lastly, we're trying to align our specific CDOT specific performance measures with the national performance measures, and specifically pavement. We use a remaining service life based measure currently, but we really want to move it more in line with the national performance measures, because when you look at the 2 different graphs from our models, it's pretty drastic. But that's another challenge we're working on. But if anybody has any questions, happy to answer them at the end.
All right. Thank you, Toby and Brett. So Matt's gonna take over for the Q&A part of our agenda.
Thanks, Shauna, and you can help as well. Anybody can help, and that includes asking questions. So I know there are a couple in the chat that folks were responding to, but I'm wondering, Nathan, or I guess Kendall or Nathan, if you wanted to expand upon some of them. So I think the one question was, can you please share how ATOM integrates with information from other asset management systems, given that you are looking at targets and decisions made by other systems, such as the pavement management system, will have an impact on those targets?
So I can kind of expound on that. So with that, I guess I can just share my video for this one part. But what we're doing is we integrate with our bridge management system, our pavement management system, and they pass over work candidates for maintenance to work on. And if maintenance works on it, it then passes back the condition based off of what we finished to input into their models. And then on our side with construction projects that go out, we're working through piloting right now the process of when a construction project completes, any of those condition data that our inspectors are installing new things automatically gets updated into that geospatial database that then ATOM can bring in and put towards that target grade. And so it's going to be based off of our physical completion. So that's how we're kind of handling trying to pass data, but we're not passing everything when it comes to pavement and structures, our ITS type items. It's mainly the maintenance owned assets like our signing, striping, culverts, those type of assets.
Thanks for that. Follow on. Anybody? So again, if you have a question or a comment or something, if you want to share kind of what your state is doing, this is an opportunity as well. Some of the challenges, concerns, issues, opportunities that you kind of see, please turn on your video camera or raise your hand and I can call on you. So I have a few kind of, I guess, I don't want to say softball questions, but they're kind of open-ended a little bit, just to kind of get the blood flowing a little bit when it comes to the Q&A. So for any of our panelists from Utah, New Mexico, Colorado, how did you sort of make the case to your leadership about the need for a new management system or to focus on sort of improved data quality, and kind of sort of make that business case to those that would have to actually pay for it?
And this is Philip from New Mexico. What ended up happening with us was we had the old Booz Allen system, and being that it was so antiquated, we had lost personnel that were actually able to make any modifications in the back end. And that was the reason that we actually went to executive staff and told them that we needed to look at getting an updated system and something that would work to benefit the agency.
Okay. I don't know, Kendall, Utah, or Colorado. Any want to take a hit at that question or not?
I wasn't actually at CDOT at the time that was done.
Okay.
My manager, William, I think is on. He might have a better idea of how that worked. I'll say we put a lot more money towards documentation because and so Philip just mentioned, as people leave, we're going to still need to maintain these models. And currently we don't have strong documentation upon all of them. We only have good documentation on a few. And so kind of making the argument to our executives that we need money to maintain it, even if there's turnover. I think it's been a good way to go about that.
Okay. Is that going smoothly so far in terms of making the case?
We ended up with a decent amount of money last year, a lot more money than we usually got to take that on.
Okay.
So I would say it's going smoothly, but there's kind of I'm blanking on the term, but there's only so much you can do in a single year with your consultants working with them. There's only so much hours you can put on. And so documenting while also updating models, while also prepping for budget setting, it has been probably a bigger challenge for us than securing necessary funding.
Okay. I guess for Kendall or for Philip, for your, and I guess Nathan was chatting as well from Utah, but to that point of sort of documentation and that sort of thing, and we've heard about the turnover in staff and everything, the great resignation, whatever you want to call it. Is that something that y'all are looking at also in terms of documenting, the model, the data, how you do things? Is that a concern for you? How are y'all trying to sort of mitigate that so that when one person leaves, all that knowledge on how to use the system, the process, the data, understanding the data doesn't leave with that person as well?
So with New Mexico, what we're working on is we're actually doing a strategic data business plan for each one of the groups throughout the agency to ensure that we have the cohesion between the groups within the agency, and ensure that the knowledge transfer is there before anybody retires or anything like that. Because as you stated, Matt, we do have a lot of turnover, and we did have one of our most valuable assets just retire. And here we are trying to make sure that everything keeps on going. So luckily she gave me a lot of her knowledge, but there's no way I could fill her shoes.
Matt, I have a question. Oh, Nathan, go ahead. Answer.
Matt, one other thing that I think UDOT noticed as we turned over this new program, there's a lot of turnover that exists as well. And there was a worry about moving to a program that was ran by phone devices and that kind of stuff in the field. If those who have been here for 20 years, 30 years wouldn't use the system either. What we found is if we made the system available for them to use, there's a lot of those that are coming online that's the only way they want to do work is by entering data immediately. And there's those that have been with us for 30 years that may not choose to want to enter some of that data, but they want to share information. When what we find is if they share information and the new people are in the data, that's a way to start to capture that knowledge base that everybody loses over time and worrying in that particular space. The other thing that we noticed with the system that's there is almost all of your assets get viewed and touched by somebody within your organization over a period of a year's time. But when you do, like, say, a culvert inventory assessment or something of that nature, you invariably miss a lot of things or make a lot of assumptions that aren't there. And if the data is just entered in a day at a time, like a lot of things happen when people are there at a certain location, touching something that's there, then aggregating and looking at your risk portfolio and your profiles for your choices for funding, some of the things Kendall showed in there, that all changes for you instantly when you have that opportunity available. So a goal for us when we asked for the new program was it had to be managed in the field. As many of you probably know, with Utah, we have tons of area that still aren't within cell service and that type of thing. So while everybody says everything can work on and offline, we had to do a lot of tests when we went through and selected our users to be able to demonstrate how you could do things on and offline, how it wouldn't overwrite material that someone else had put in there. All those elements were important in trying to bring the system together. And I know somebody kind of said, well, how did you get leadership to look onto that? We said, look to the future, look at what people are able to do when they have that data and information. Look at the choices you can make when an analysis can be done that's separate from an individual's perspective or view and where they're at. And you have that aggregated database. And that's kind of with a catalyst that pushed us forward. But we were in the same situation as New Mexico described. We needed to do something. We knew that the time was ticking on the system we'd had for over a decade, and that opened the door.
Jana, you were going to say something?
Yeah, so this is a question for all of you, which is you're all at different stages of your management system implementation. As you look to the short-term improvements you're making with your management system, what area do you think will be the biggest bang for your buck? Meaning, what's going to deliver the most for as fewer resources that's needed to do it? How about let's start with Britt and Toby.
Oh, sorry, could you repeat the question?
So you guys are, implementing your management, using your management system, but I'm guessing that you think about ways to improve on how you're using it, how it's performing for you. So as you're looking at the kind of short term, what do you think is going to be your biggest bang for your buck? Meaning, something you can do that's going to deliver the most value for you from your management system?
I definitely would say our data, making sure our data is correct. When you're pulling from data from 40 years ago and it was all in paper, it can be a little bit challenging to have full confidence in it. And to actually help along that is that we're looking at the metadata actually quite a bit more. Talking with our asset managers, using their expertise to kind of create checklists of what this should look like, having kind of a better understanding of what where the data sources originally are coming from, how much inventory they have. And I only learned a couple of weeks ago that our fleet inventory changes on a weekly basis due to what's being reported in the shops. So stuff like that is critical to understanding what our data looks like. And unless I'm pretty new to CDOT, so not having that just kind of written down anywhere has been constantly something I need to relearn and figure out, instead of just having a file to check like, oh, we should be expecting a kind of variation number of inventory of 100 to 200 fleet vehicles a week. So stuff like that, it's not expensive, but I think there's a lot of important benefit from it.
Thanks, Britt. How about you, Philip?
Well, one of our main drivers is going to be the TAM, because we're under the constraints of what FHWA is requiring of pavement and bridge reporting. And we want to make sure that we make it as streamlined as possible.
Yep. Thanks, Philip. And Utah, I'm guessing that it's going to be focused on implementation for now as you're rolling out a new system. Kendall?
I mean, a lot of that's how we implement. And then for us, the big thing is that quality of the data that's going in, to kind of what Nathan talked about, the concept of making sure that we're collecting data while we're out there for condition to be able to lead to these metrics, these performances, doing cross asset allocation between our maintenance assets. Those types of things require to have information in there that's up to date and not something that's 10, 15 years older. And so that's the big push for us as we go to this type of system.
I think Chris Whipple has his hand up, so he gets the prize. If they give you a candy bar, I throw it to you in the audience.
I just realized I don't have UDOT behind my name, but I'm the state asset manager for UDOT. But to add to what Kendall just said there, and to emphasize what was said, by a couple folks, is data is our focus right now. Just how we manage that data, how we collect that data, how we store it, how we analyze it, and how we act on it, right? It's a TAM data guide. And so that's one thing that we've noticed as we've met with each one of these asset owners, as we've coordinated with our maintenance division, is just data needs to be forefront of our emphasis. And when we get, just like Kendall said, that the more accurate we can get that data and store it and use it correctly, that the better off and the more future-proof, I guess, this system is.
Great. I'm wondering if there's anybody from the audience. I see a lot of people from DOTs and people who are helping DOTs with their use of management systems. If anybody wants to share their thoughts on this topic, and really focused on, how do we make all of us, the whole community of TAM practitioners, get more from what management systems have to offer. Any volunteers before I start calling on you?
A quiet group. It was very noisy last week during our tour.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think we want to belabor. Well,
Force people to speak.
Yeah, I don't probably want to do that now.
Yeah.
But so I guess just one last question that I kind of have, and this will be the last one before we go to the closing poll. If there was one thing, I phrase it, what is your sort of one key lesson learned that you would want to share with somebody at another agency that you learned, that again, one key lesson learned that you would want to share in terms of implementation of your system if another agency was going to sort of pick it up and kind of do something with it? What's that one? Hey, here it is, here's the critical thing to kind of know about this.
I'll speak from UDOT's perspective is understanding what your current data is. What format is it in? What is that condition? Where is it stored at? How can you access it? And then how can your systems integrate and use that data? That was a big challenge for us that delayed our project quite a bit, was understanding where all of our data was housed and the rules behind how that data got transferred back and forth.
Great, thanks for that. Philip, you turn your camera on.
Yeah, one of the lessons that we learned early on was ensure that the whole agency is involved, only because that's actually going to help everybody and you'll get the buy-in from all of your users, which makes your training a lot easier. And that's when you can reach out to your patrols or your divisions, whatever you call them, and have them do some of the training with you. And you'll be more successful in your implementation and be able to get it off the ground a lot sooner.
Great, thanks for that. And CDOT, anything playing cleanup?
Hit
us home.
Oh, sorry.
No, I just trying to use a baseball reference. Hit us home. Bring us home.
We managed 12 asset classes when we model 11 of them. And I think me personally, I would say get down one model pat. Put a lot of effort into creating your pavement management system and then using that to extend out to your other stuff. I think we might have gone too broad too quickly. It's a little bit challenging to maintain all 11 models and updating all 11 models without having a pavement management system quite how we want it.
Great. Well, thanks for that. We do have, I think we will end the Q&A session there, and I'm sure other people, if other questions come up, feel free to, contact the people who are on here. But before we end this, we do have one more sort of closing poll that we wanted to do back at Menti. So if you go to menti.com, the code is 97441075. And the last question here is, what did you find the most valuable from today's webinar? And we have a second question also. So where did you find the most valuable from today's webinar? All right, lessons
And I
learned.
think there is a second question about.
Yep. The second question will be what do you want most from an asset management system that you don't already have? I think that's the second question, second slide here. All right, there's 76 people on. There has to be more than this. Here we go. They're coming in now. The need for good data, not trying to do too much right off the bat. That's it. The feedback, practical examples from presenters. Like the one over here on the first column, the last one, understanding that every state has a wealth of experience to share and help guide development of TAM tools. I was on another call previous to this, talking to the Canadian TAC, the Canadian version of AASHTO, I think. And we talk about the United States, where we have 52 members of AASHTO. It's like everyone's a sort of a different laboratory in terms of what's being developed, what's being created, how they're doing things. A great way to kind of test systems and develop things. Open source is a great idea. All right. The ability to compare these states' processes similar to Kansas. All right. All right, Perry, if you want to go to the next slide. The next question, what do you want most from an asset management system that you do not have today? An asset management system. There we go. Easier analysis of the output from the system. Optimizing across assets. Not sure exactly what to use AASHTO means, but I'll take that as a positive. All right, so as people keep on responding, you want me to take the last part here, Hiana?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, all right. So just in conclusion, we'll keep this slide up and you keep on responding to it. So thank you to all of our presenters today. It was a great webinar. I think a lot of good information, as we saw from the closing poll, was shared. Good dialogue, that sort of thing. And also thank you to all of you who stood in, who were here, sharing your thoughts and then sharing your overall questions. Again, we'll be back as part of this 4-part mini series. We'll be back next week on Thursday with our 3rd installment of the TAM Tools webinar mini series. Next week's topic is on other TAM tools. Those of you on today's webinar and those of you on our regular email list will receive the email reminders, and you should know about it. Hopefully it's on your calendar. And then the final webinar of this mini series will be the following Thursday, May 12th at 2 p.m. Eastern. So please do continue to send us your ideas for webinars and topics. We're going to keep this whole webinar series going. As a reminder, we have the AASHTO Transportation Performance Management Technical Service Program, which is taking over for the pooled fund, the TPM pooled fund program. And through that program, that's how we're able to fund the planning and the delivery of these webinars. It takes a lot of people to kind of put these together and bring everything together. The idea of, many hands makes light work. I think that's a sort of an example here with this and all the participation. But we, again, want to, if you have other ideas for webinars, not just on TAM tools, on the topic of TAM or the intersection of TAM with something else, please let us know. We're always looking for great ideas. And the final reminder, please visit for more information the TAM portal. Everybody together, tam-portal.com. You'll find a recording of this there. This webinar there, all the slide material, the slide decks, all that good stuff. So with that, again, thank you to the presenters. Thank you to the consultant team. Thank you to Tasha, to FHWA for being a great partner and all that. And we'll see you next Thursday. Have a great week and stay safe. Bye.
Bye.